What is good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Whoa, my bad. We're back again at Warframe, as always, loving it. Finally back to making some content on Warframe, and we're taking a look at our favorite Pregaganant, Preggy, Frogers, baby mama, Jade herself, that's right. And we got a bit of a glow up here with techrot Encore, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it. Finally, I've been anticipating this update to come out so that way we could finally do a Jade review, and what better way to do it than right now, right here in this video. So, Jade, let's go over her abilities first, and then we'll get into the build. Let's explain her. Jade's passive is a really fun one. So, she gets two, count them, not one, but two aura slots. Some of her abilities also apply these things called judgments, which increase the enemies, increases the damage vulnerability of enemies by 50% for a little bit of time. This is really, really handy because it means that we can essentially get a flat 50% damage increase just by existing, which is really good. This applies as well to allies that are targeting those enemies too, which means she's a fantastic support frame to start off with. Next up, we got Light's Judgment. This is a fantastic ability too, because it applies those aforementioned judgments. Everyone in this little bowl of light is going to be getting a judgment put on them, which means that you're getting 50% more damage against them. It's also going to do a little bit of damage over time to everyone inside, and it's going to give you 20% of your and allies' health back every single second that you're in it, which is like Trinity on crack, and I love that. It does have a maximum amount of Light's Judgments that it can apply, which is 5. There's not really any way to increase that either. You unfortunately just have 5, but honestly, if 5 people survive for the full 12 seconds inside that thing, I would be shocked. And if people do die and they are standing, there are more people standing in the bubble, it just keeps spreading, and that's something that isn't really talked about here. Moving on, we have Symphony of Mercy. This is a really diverse ability. Basically, there are 3 buffs that you get from it that you can swap between, and then there's an additional 4th buff, which is just there. So let's go through it. First of all, you have 3 songs that strengthen yourself and allies. There is the Power of 7, which gives you ability strength, and this is fantastic for buffing all of your abilities that you currently have, as well as giving your allies a bit of a boost if there are any caster frames or anything like that. So definitely think something to consider there is that if you want to go down the ability strength route, that is perfectly viable for this ability, and will give you 64% more, which is a crap ton when you really think about it. Next up is Deathbringer. Deathbringer increases the damage of all of your weapons, melee, shooting, and also any like strange projectiles that you shoot, whether it be from like a Cedo or from something like a glaive, right? Whatever the case is, you get 254% more damage with this bad boy, which is ridiculous. It means you don't have to mod for damage on your weapons if you don't want to. However, I still would recommend modding for damage on your weapons because of the fact that you might want to use strength in this ability instead to help out some of your teammates who are, like I said, caster frames, in which case you're probably going to take a massive hit on your actual weapon damage if that is the case. Last but not least, we have Spirit of Resilience, which is giving you a bonus to your shields slash recharge delay, and it exists, but I find it to just be objectively worse modding Jade for shield gating than for just straight tankiness. And we'll get into that in the build, but I think this is probably the worst of the 3 options by quite a large margin, especially considering you can hit some pretty insane numbers with damage thanks to this ability using either Deathbringer or Power of 7. Next up is Ophonym Eyes, I want to say that's how you say it, but I could be wrong. It could be a Phantom Eyes. I really don't know. I'm not Jade, and I'm sure no one else knows either. Regardless, you spawn a bunch of eyes. They look kind of weird, kind of creepy, but they stare at people and make them feel, I guess, insecure because it makes them really slow and sluggish and strips all their shields and armor. If you're looking at an ally that's down as well with these eyes, you just encourage them to get back up, or maybe put the fear of God in their eyes so much that they don't want to die anymore. Don't know what the case is, but it really does boost you quite a large bit. This is pretty good because with the build that we've got, it strips armor by 25% per second. So with 4 seconds of staring at someone, they no longer have armor, which is fantastic. And it has a pretty decent range with a nice little cone in front of you, and also slows 15% per second to a maximum of 90%, which is just ridiculous. So in roughly 6 seconds, you will slow them to 90% if they're not dead by then, which is, again, a bit of a shock, but it might happen. Last but not least is our Glory on High. This is the ability that allows you to get essentially Archwing levels of flight, while also having your Exalted weapon out, which is something that we'll talk about in a bit. But basically, the way it works is pretty cool. You have the flying capabilities. You get to have judgments applied when attacking with your Exalted weapon, but you can also use an alternative fire to detonate all the judgments that are currently on the field, whether that be from your 1 or from your 4th ability, and that explodes all of those judgments in a big AoE, dealing some bonus heat damage, and just overall is a bit of fun. It does drain additional energy, which is something that you got to keep in mind, but you also get a really nice damage reduction with this, which is really good. Damage reduction of 50% by just existing in this ability is fantastic. It makes you plenty more survivable, and we'll talk about even more survivability in a little bit. But that's it. That's the abilities. That's how it works. Let's get straight into the build, and it's a really fun one because, again, we have not 1 but 2 of our aura mods. So to start off with, in the aura section, we have Growing Power for additional strength of 25% for not only yourself, but again for allies, because we want to be a little bit of a support frame as well. We've got Aerodynamic to give us 24% reduced damage while flying, which again boosts us now up to 74% reduction while flying when we pair it with the 50% from Glory on High. So we're at the 74% damage reduction already, which is fantastic. We then use an Exalted slot, which allows us to get Aviator for 40% more. This brings us up to 104%. Obviously, it doesn't quite work that way because there is a cap, but 104%, loving the damage reduction a lot. We pair this up again with even more from Boreal's Hatred, giving us an additional 20%. So we're getting as much damage reduction as possible while we're in the air. This is so important. This means that we have, without any extra Glory on High ability, we've got 84% damage reduction here. Glory on High adds some extra, and that's always nice. We then have the actual ability itself. We've modded for mostly strength, but a little bit of range, a little bit of duration, and some efficiency back in there because, again, we want to be able to be in Glory on High for as long as possible. So we have Transient Fortitude for strength, along with Blind Rage for strength as well. This will give us the maximum amount of strength that we can really sort of squeeze out of this build, which is 254% on top of Growing Power. I think that's perfectly fine. That's quite a fair bit of strength as is. If you want more, you can always apply your Symphony of Mercy. With the duration, we've just got Primed Continuity. This helps us bump up back to 128%. Obviously, with Transient Fortitude and Primed Continuity in there, this allows us to have at least a decent time on our buffs. Ophonym Eyes lasting 38 seconds and Symphony of Mercy lasting 38 seconds. as well as 12 seconds on each Light's Judgment charge, which is really, really nice. The other thing to note as well is we have Stretch on here. This helps us with the Often in Eyes range, as well as the Light's Judgment range. This means that we can get a bit of leniency when we're flying around the sky in that armor stripping mode. Because obviously if we're too far away because we're too high in the sky, we might not strip their armor with Often in Eyes at its base level of range, so we increase it by a little bit. We've got Equilibrium and Archon Vitality to give us essentially more energy and more health per second, as well as more health in general. We've got Archon Vitality as well to double our heat damage applied from abilities, which includes our Exalted weapon, which does base heat damage. This doubles our damage basically in terms of heat, which is really, really nice. We have a pretty large emphasis on economy. So we do have, like I said, Boreal's Hatred, not only for the airborne reduction, but also the efficiency, along with Streamline for more efficiency, bringing us up to 90% despite having Blind Rage. And to add insult to injury, we also have Arcane Energize on here and Equilibrium to really keep us in the sky for as long as possible. Because as soon as we touch the ground and we stop playing the floor as lava, we are going to perish pretty quickly because all our damage reduction is gone. I see some people opting to go for the route of adaptation. I think that's completely unnecessary with this build. You really don't need that, and this works perfectly fine. Last but not least, though, we have Arcane Velocity, which says that on critical hit, you have a 90% chance for your pistols to gain 120% fire rate. The reason why this is on here is because her Exalted weapon is a pistol, and that gives us plenty more damage overall. Moving on to the Glory itself, let's look at them. So, Glory got a glow up in the form of getting an Arcane slot, and we'll talk about the Arcane slot in just a second and why I chose this specific one. There are a couple of options, and it's really up to you on which one you want to choose, and I'll tell you exactly why in a second. So to start off with, we have Barrel Diffusion and Galvanized Shot. These are, Galvanized Diffusion and Galvanized Shot. The reason why these are the most important of the two mods is because they give us incredible scaling, which is what we really, really want. We are going to be getting kills easily with this weapon. We're going to want the status chance bonus. We're getting plenty of kills as well in terms of gaining more multi-shot, meaning we're just going to do increased damage after 4 kills by quite a large margin. We've got Lethal Torrent to add even more fire rate on top of the Arcane Velocity. We've got Primed Target Cracker and Pistol Gambit in here. Even though that this isn't a necessarily heavy crit weapon, having 40% crit chance and a multiplier of 5.2 is really, really nice. Now, this is not necessary by any means, and if you wanted to just add more damage to this weapon in a way that is going to benefit you more when you don't have Prime Target Cracker and Prime Pistol Gambit, instead of building for crit without these two primed mods, I highly recommend instead putting on something like Accelerated Isotope to give you more fire rate as well as radiation damage, and then Magnetic Might to give you more magnetic damage. While sure, the critical damage isn't really that useful here, it is incredibly useful for the magnetic damage to help you deal with those pesky Eximus units, and radiation is always nice with a high status chance, as well as that bonus fire rate to give you even more damage, as well as the ability to allow enemies to attack each other, giving you a bit more survivability as well. Last but not least, though, we have our damage mods. We have Hornet Strike. Always, I like to run Hornet Strike. Again, you could argue that adding a additional thing like the magnetic ability of Magnetic Might on here instead would be better, arguably, because of the fact that, again, the situation calls for more elemental damage since you've got a innate damage bonus. But my argument is I'd rather have Hornet Strike on here, so that way if I ever do need to change over to ability Strength for my Show of Mercy, I can do that and not lose out too much damage by having Hornet Strike off. We then have viral. I built viral. You could easily build something else, whether it be like gas, magnetic, whatever. It's fine. Just keep in mind, I like my viral heat. This is my favorite option. I think this just works because you're already armor stripping, so you don't need corrosion. You don't really need to go blast because then you run out of options. You'd have to go like blast magnetic, and that's okay, but not great because you want heat for the Archon vitality. So I personally like viral here. I do have a viral Volpifiler, you know, running around as well, which is sort of a double negative, but I don't really care too much. I find that this is just the way I like to play it. We then have the Arcane slot. Now, the Arcane slot is quite flexible. We have the option of 2, in my opinion, in particular. We have access to Cascadia Flare, which is going to give us a crap load more damage based on every heat status that we have, stacking up to 480%. Or we have secondary Fortifier, giving us 8 times more damage against Overguard, and more importantly, every single time you kill an Overguard enemy, you're going to get access to some of its Overguard as per the damage you dealt to it. Now, this makes you basically immortal, because you are permanently in there doing it, and we'll show you exactly what we mean with our signature Mott Survival run. I have been told as well about a lure mission that works even better for this because it's even higher level enemies, but I personally just do Mott Survival because I know that Mott Survival is a go-to for a lot of people. So we'll go from there. I'm just going to immediately go up into the sky because apparently we've joined in a game already, which is okay, but it does cause for me to have to just quickly switch over. But as you can see, even with someone helping out, I don't know what they're running. They're running a Mesa, so they're not actually helping us in any way, shape, or form with damage. We are ripping through people, right? We are ripping through people. Our fire rate is absolutely insane. If you don't want to do the crit side of things, you don't have to either. And like I said, you could put more status on here or more elemental damage. This works too. If you put more elemental damage on, you can get even faster fire rates as well as magnetic damage. I haven't really seen any Eximus units lying around, so we haven't really gotten a chance to gain any Overguard just yet. But if we do find one, we'll show you just how good this Cascadia Flare is. Let's just melt this guy real quick. Let's put Optimum Eyes on him. 1, 2, 3, 4. There goes all of his armor. He is dodging my attacks, which is a bit annoying just because he's sitting with a weird temporal shift pipe vibe going on. I don't know what was going on there, but either way, we managed to get there. We did run out of energy because our enemy density wasn't high enough because there's a Mesa running around. But that's okay. That's why we have all these energy mods on. But as you can see, this build, we're already at 7,000 Overguard, thanks to Cascadia Flare. There you go. And it's just going to get more and more ridiculous. You're not going to die. You're not going to take any damage. This is probably one of the most underrated builds I've seen. I don't know why no one is talking about this after the techrot Encore update. This is something that I would see no one mention, which is crazy. A lot of people are talking about Excalibur, and I made my previous video talking about Excalibur as well, and how I think that the reason why people are talking about Excalibur is kind of silly. I think that he's far more balanced than people make it out to be, and I think that Jade is far more ridiculous than Excalibur in every sense of the word. This is just insane. I think it's incredibly underrated, and that's a great display there. We had ludicrous amounts of damage. We had plenty of survivability. I don't know what else to say, really. This is just ridiculous. Definitely build this character if you haven't already. I fell in love with Jade basically as soon as I started playing with her. She was fantastic, a lot of fun, and an absolute blast to play. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Stay safe, and I will see you all very, very soon. I'm going to be live on Twitch pretty much every single day for the rest of the week. So if you haven't, come check out the Twitch channel. If you have any questions, I play War Thunder over on Twitch every single day. I'm a partner of War Thunder. It's another free-to-play game. Go give it some love. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. If you don't want to check out the Twitch, though, by all means, like, comment, subscribe, all that sort of jazz. Support the channel in any way you can. And if you want to help me out, I would love it if you guys could help me get some more Forma going, as I am currently dead broke in this game, and more importantly, completely out of Forma. So the builds are gonna have to slow a little bit down just for the current future until I get some more Forma. I apologize in advance for that, but a big thank you to everyone again. I'll see you soon. Stay safe. Bye.